In this video, I reveal exactly how I get my apps localized. Till now, I haven't made this information public, but not anymore. Hello, this is App Spotlight. We believe every great app should have the chance to reach the people who will benefit from it. And in this show, we show you how to do this. So let's get to it. I initially thought I'd not reveal this, since it's one of those things that gives you a real edge. But since this channel is about spreading great apps, I'll let the cat out of the bag. Okay, so first, let's talk about what are all your options. Let's start by telling you what you should never, ever do. Do not use Google Translate or any other online translator. They mess up grammar, and in a lot of languages, it just sounds awkward. And sometimes it plain doesn't make sense. It is free, but it is the most costly option to you. You might be thinking, free but costly? Here's why. Once people see something that's Google translated, it looks like the app was created by amateurs. And you lose that user forever. If, God forbid, they download the app and then see the errors in the app, not only will they uninstall your app, they will also leave you a bad review. The worst part is that the app stores now, a review left in one language is visible to people looking at the app in any language, including English. So bad translations in one language could potentially cost you your app's entire future. Option number 2. Freelancers. Number 1. The thing that works great is that it's cheap. Now everyone claims they know what they're doing with translating apps, but the number of freelancers who really know how app development and app strings work is actually very few. Number 2. It's gonna take you a lot of time to manage 16 different translators. Why 16? Because that's how many localizations it takes to capture the vast majority of smartphone users. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out my other video, which languages should you localize your app to? Number 3. You remember the problem with Google Translate, right? Well, there are a lot of freelancers who just use Google Translate and take their customers for a ride. Now you'd think you'd find out who they are through the reviews, right? Think again. I've seen freelancers who have over 500 5-star reviews to Google Translate. Now why didn't they just get caught, you'd think? Well, because if people are trying to save money by using a cheap freelancer, they're likely not using a proofreader. And what that means is somebody could get hundreds of 5-star reviews by giving terrible work. Now don't get me wrong, you can get great freelancers, but the risk you take when you use freelancers is massive. If you end up with a Google Translate work in just one language, it could tank your reviews and thus installs for every single language. Option 3. Google Developer Translation Service or other large translation agencies. Now with these options, you can be sure that you're getting a legitimate human translation because these companies have their very reputation riding on the work. But the problem is that they're also really expensive. So this was the boat I was in. I first started off using freelance translators and adjusting it for code myself. This took way too much time to manage the freelancers and then adjust the code, but I still put up with it because the large translation agencies were way too pricey for my liking. But I decided to drop using freelancers when I found out that some of the freelancers were using Google Translate. Now I'm lucky. I speak 3 languages besides English. So I could tell, which got me thinking, how many other languages are being Google translated that I couldn't tell? So I figured my only option was to use either these large agencies directly or through the Google Play Developer Console, which really just subcontracts the work out to these large translation agencies. I was like, you get what you pay for, so just bear with the high prices. And I absolutely had to do localization, since it's still the highest return on investment marketing activity you can do for your app by a lot. If you don't know why it's the highest ROI marketing activity, check out my other video called The Best Way to Market Your Mobile App in 2019. Anyways, so I was complaining about this to a friend, about how I had to pay so much for localizing my apps. Well, he also worked at a company that had its own app, and he told me that they have the same problem. Now he's been developing apps for a lot longer than I've been doing this. If his company is stuck doing the same thing, there's no point waiting around. It's unlikely that I'd find a good solution eventually. So I knew I had to develop a lot more apps in the future. So if I let things be, it'll be this extra burden that I have to deal with every single app. So I thought it's worth the investment to actually figure this out. So I painstakingly went into finding great translators in all the languages that I had to translate my apps to, which is over 20 different languages. I had to find reliable people who could do my translations for me, and then I had to go through the painstaking task of ensuring that the work they did was great. And I also got reliable proofreaders to look into the work they do. This took an inordinate amount of time, and it cost me a lot of money too. But I saw that I could do the localization now for less than half, you heard that right, less than half the price the large translation agencies like Translator were charging me. So even though it took me so much time and money up front to personally find and vet these people, it's going to pay off in the long term. So now I had a high quality localization down, and I could do it for less than half the price of the large translation agencies, which got me thinking why they were charging so much in the first place. So I looked into how these large translation agencies work and why they were charging so much. And as it turns out, these large translation agencies have a lot of Fortune 500 clients, and these companies are sending them a ton of documents to translate. So for them, these large Fortune 500s who send them so much business would always be a priority. So they're charging you extra for isolated work that you have to get done. What's more, they're also translating things like legal documents, for which they could charge more. So basically what happens is that you're stuck competing on price with high-end legal documents on one hand and leftover translation manpower from the Fortune 500s. So that's why you basically have to pay so much for these large translation agencies. After this, I met an app entrepreneur. Now he was developing a social network, and all social networks need to be localized to multiple languages to even have a chance of success. He had the same problem that I had painstakingly figured out. Now I offered to help him out with my people, and when I told him how much I'll be charging, boy was he shocked, because he thought it was going to cost him as much as the other large translation agencies were charging him. Since then, I've helped a couple other people, and they were really grateful for the help, but I didn't really want to tell others about it. And you'd understand why. Because it's a real competitive advantage for me now. If you're able to reliably localize apps at half the market price, that's a real competitive advantage that I really didn't want to let go of. So only a few friends and clients from our other main business have been able to use my team. But when we started App Spotlight, we figured this is going to be about really helping app builders get their apps to those who will benefit from them. So against my initial resistance, I'll be letting you use my own team to do your localizations. And I know it's the best game in town. Now my team is great, but it's a fairly small team, so I can't promise that we'd be able to help everyone who reaches out to us, or how long I could keep doing this. I've left a link in the description. You can go there and apply, and if we can accommodate you, we will. If you appreciate this, you can say thank you by hitting the like button. If you want to get more market-beating competitive edges in promoting and marketing your app, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified when our next video will be coming out. You've been watching App Spotlight. Until next time, keep spreading your apps and make the world a better place. Hey, still here? Check out these videos. They'll help you spread your apps. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to App Spotlight.